Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, AK Tags.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Nice. Episode 164. Just keep going up by one. It seems to be working for us.
It's basic counting, and we got it down.
Number thing down. That's right. Yeah.
We can't count any higher as long as we... Wait, no. Our counting limitations are limited to the amount of episodes we have. So if my kids want to know what number comes after 164, they better know it on their own.
You're going to have to wait till next week.
I won't know it. That's right.
Sweet.
We'll find out.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us this week, and especially to patrons. Thank you for supporting the podcast. We had a bunch of resubs this week. Thank you very much. If you're curious what our Patreon is, check it out. You get access to After Dark, which is our podcast after the podcast, where Tyler and I just continue this wonderful friendship we have online through a camera and a microphone.
It is a lot better now that it's online only, and we don't have to smell you.
It's like once a week. We just chill
out,
do some
hang out,
chattering and chattering. Anyway, that's After Dark, so check it out. Thanks everybody for supporting us. You guys are awesome, and we appreciate it. How's your week, bud?
I had a good week. I'm curious, Justin. I got a question for you. How much do you pay for a haircut?
All right, listen. Last week I did ask about it because I got a new haircut, and I read all of there were comments on a lot of our different places. I saw Discord and YouTube. Some people private messaged me, and I have come to realize, well, first off, outside of Canada and the US primarily, it seems way more affordable getting your haircut. Like, it seemed like a lot of the people in like European areas and they just seem to have, their prices seem way better now.
30 euros is a lot Canadian.
That might have been the highest we saw, because I think most were in the like 12 to 18. What's 30 euros in Canadian? What's that?
Like $100?
No, it's not. Euros to Canadian, 30 euros. It's $1.40 per. So $41.
I know. See, you and I have different budgets. You and I have different personalities, different play styles in Path of Exile that translates into normal life.
Well, but you don't get your haircut
differently as well. No, I probably 10 years ago bought myself a shaver.
Right.
And it's been fantastic.
And there were a lot of people that was the response as well, that they bought a shaver and now do their own hair. And
well, we're at that age now, I mean, my hair is so receding, people think I'm bald.
Yeah, you just go for the clean
I wish I was
look.
Bald. Man, then I wouldn't have to do anything if I was bald.
How often do you shave it up?
My face?
No, your
once
head.
a week. My head once every 2 weeks. I wear a hat most of the time for my concussion stuff.
Right.
So my head, I can do it once every 2 weeks. And that's the more annoying one anyway. The face is nice, easy, and quick. They get the same number though. So whatever I feel like doing on my face, they get the same razor depth
really?
for the head. Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting. Is that just because
if I
you
feel
don't
like a number
switch
one
it?
and nice and tight? Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. Like,
I have
wanna
zero
flip that
interest in
switch.
actually trying to make my weird head with barely any hair look good. Just
I would
make it not noticeable. That's the key.
My thing has
The
always
more
been
effort you put in.
I don't care what color my hair turned, because I got like the silver on the side. I have a weird head, so to go bald just terrifies me, because I don't have a normal. I feel like my head's big, and I think I'd look ridiculous with no hair.
But you and your dad, I don't know about your brother, but you and your dad, you have natural silver tips.
Yeah,
some
Nate
people
doesn't.
pay to get the tips of their hair dyed just so that they can get your look. So you got like
I got lucky.
You and
with
your
that.
dad got this natural yum.
Yeah.
You know, the older you get, the yummier you
That's
get.
right. Yeah. Well, so anyway, I do appreciate everybody responding. That was awesome to see what it was like around the world. My previous price was a little bit lower than I used to.
Yeah, right. It was lower. Nothing you do is lower.
I used to pay about $35 every 2 weeks.
Okay,
that's what I used to pay.
But that's all right.
This new one is much more expensive.
It sounds like you're avoiding telling us the exact details.
Well,
so new
nobody
thing,
was even
Discord
close.
and everyone else. No, oh wow, because there were some pricey ones. Okay,
What was the priciest? What was the priciest?
Everyone. Oh, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But everyone, no matter where it is that you're responding, new game. Now try and guess how much Justin's haircut was,
It's
and
not
maybe
like
he'll have had too much to drink one night, and he'll be like, "Yep, that's it."
I didn't think it was like, I did think it was high. Even when I got it, I thought, boy, that is relatively high for a haircut. But I was curious if I would be happy with the results more so than I was before, which I was. So then it's put me in this weird spot of,
Is it worth the
yeah.
extra $150 every 2 weeks?
well, it's not 150 every 2 weeks.
It's like $149.99.
So no, but so I'm not sure what to do now. I'm not really sure because I did really like the haircut. It's just maybe I'll go every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. I couldn't go a month. There's no way.
The ear.
I know. Well, I'm watching to see.
Your ear.
I'm watching to see what happens with it and see how quickly it grows because they did like a 0.5 and then the fade up. So we'll see how long that takes to approach the area of no return for me, which is hair crossing the ear. But
funny.
Yeah, thanks everybody for the response. It was fun. I really did appreciate reading them because I am quite curious how there's a difference in different parts of the world. And it does seem like it's much better in other areas. Although I did hear some people even in Canada and the States are like, well, there's an alley down the road and they'll do it for $14.
Yeah, that's right. Some guy in a van.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, how was your week?
Well, you never guess who I got a letter from in the mail, Justin.
Santa?
That's right. I got a letter almost, but better.
Yeah.
But now worse, but better. From PepsiCo Canada.
Oh, God.
We value your comments and your loyalty to our products. Thanks for
Pepsi?
contacting us. Sincerely, PepsiCo Consumer Relations. Remember I wrote Doritos?
Oh, are they own Doritos? Yeah.
And then there's a wonderful picture on this oversized business card.
An actual thing in the mail?
Some of their products. just a little advertisement. You know, they got some Lay's, they have some Pepsi. They also own Quaker. So for those quick oats.
Is there at least a
Gatorade
coupon?
on there, some Tropicana. Oh, yes, Justin. That is the second thing that was on there. Now I get one free for Frito-Lay product of any variety or flavor.
Is Frito-Lay Doritos?
Well, yeah. See, they introduce themselves as PepsiCo, but then I get Frito-Lay, and then underneath it says that's basically all like the
so you can get your ketchup
stuff.
Doritos.
Right. So guess what I did?
Did you?
I went to Save On Foods, which is the only freaking grocery store that carries it. I went, yeah. Well, stupid price. It is almost that much. But anyway, but like 7-Eleven doesn't have the ketchup Doritos. Superstore doesn't have them. The No Frills doesn't have them. And none of the other. We have
only Save On.
That's all we have. Only Save On. So guess what I do? Yesterday, on my way back, I went to London Drugs to go pick up some pictures that I ordered, right? For one of the gifts that I'm doing. I went and got some pictures that I had printed, picked it up, called my wife, and I'm like, hey, do I have time to stop at Save On Foods before we watch another Bond tonight? Because we're going through the Bond movies. We watched the third one. What's it called? Skyfall. And I love the Bond movies. Massive loopholes in Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. There's some massive story loopholes, but still,
only you. I love it.
But anyway, we were watching those. So I'm like, hey, do I have any time left before you start reading Harry Potter to the kids? And then for Skyfall, I want some chips for Skyfall. She's like, yeah. No, the kids are taking forever. So on the way back from London Drugs, I go to Save On Foods. I go in there.
Get out. They didn't have any.
None. To the point. And remember, they were temporary. They said for a limited time, but on the shelf. And remember, like Save On doesn't stock Doritos. Doritos comes in and stocks Doritos. There wasn't even a section for them, Justin. I was like in tears almost.
No.
I was reading all the tags.
They were actually
was
gone.
No more Doritos ketchup.
Oh, so did you save your coupon for now?
I have this coupon that you can see.
That's awesome.
Can you read it properly or is it flipped?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have my camera right for you. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to sit here because that was the only Doritos.
You could check a different
It's the only
Save-Ons.
Doritos product that I can have.
Maybe check a different Save-Ons. That's funny.
Bastards. They went from my favorite company to my most hated company.
Write a new letter.
2 weeks. That's right. Could you send me a coupon for a different company, please?
I've had enough.
That was an emotional week, Justin.
Yes,
Let me tell you. Anyway, how about you? What'd you do this week?
My week was good. It was work-wise was awesome, but I did do some other stuff on a more personal level. I took my daughter to the eye doctor and to the ENT.
Oh, you got the ENT already.
Yeah,
Good
we got
for you.
into ENT. So first eye doctor, we like a year ago. So I have bad eyes. My prescription's -6.5, and it started at her age and just progressed quite.
Hang on, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
You know what I love about glasses, people? There's always a competition for how bad someone's eyes are. They're some of my favorite
I wish I could lose that competition all the time. I tend to win unless I'm against my mom because she had like -11. She's got laser surgery now, but so I'm -6.5 is both my eyes. So if I have no contacts, and it's not blind, but it's not great. And so last time we took her, just a little bit over a year ago, the eye doctor was talking about this new type of lens that had just come out into Canada. It's been around in like Asian countries for quite a while, and it's this development that they've been working on where I don't even know how it does what it does, but the lens itself is very useful for especially kids. And then when the parents have eyes like I have, where there can be a tendency for that to be hereditary and the eyes can get worse. Somehow this lens helps. The eyes are still going to change, but it limits how bad the eyes can potentially get. So for somebody like myself at a -6.5, had these lenses existed back then and my parents could get them, I could have ended at more like a -2, -2.5, which is a huge difference when it comes to prescriptions in the eyes. So what they did with Sophia is they had us come back 3 months later last year just to see if there was any change at all in the eye. And if the eye was starting to change, because that was around the same age it did for me, then they were going to recommend these lenses, because she had a very small prescription at that point that she didn't really have to have glasses. All right. And sure enough, in the 3 months, she had already made a change of a quarter, 0.25. So they suggested these lenses. So we said, yeah, I mean, if I can help her not have eyes like mine in the end, that'd be awesome. So they weren't cheap, but the one thing that was cool with them is that they came with a 2-year warranty. But part of that 2-year warranty on the lens was, and it's made specifically for kids, is if the eyes change in the first year, they'll replace the lens for free within the first year to the new prescription. So the idea is make sure you get your eyes checked again before that 1 year runs up, because then you can go in and have the lens replaced. So I took her in to get those checked, and impressively, like, remember I said in the first 3 months they had changed a quarter, which was the same for me. I used to change almost close to half a point every single year. In the year since, her eyes haven't changed at all, which is amazing. It's a little tough because it means she has to wear glasses all the time, but she loves wearing glasses anyway, so she doesn't care.
She looks really cute with them too.
Yeah, she loves them. There was like a 0.25% change in the astigmatism, but the best part is we were able to take them in. New lenses were ordered and they're going in this week, and we won't have to pay for that because that's just part of the warranty. So that was really cool. I was really actually like nerdily excited for that, because I remember it sucked as a kid, just constantly having your eyes getting worse and worse and worse. And for me too, at -6.5 lenses, if you don't pay the extra money to have them squashed, are like half an inch thick. Yeah. They're just massive, right? So yeah, so that was really cool. And then, yeah, we got into the ENT, which was awesome. And thankfully, everything turned out great. The ENT person, I'm not sure who you had, but this was the same guy that actually did Ethan's ENT work when Ethan used to have bloody noses. So they had to cauterize up his nose. This guy, it just happened to be the same guy. Amazing. Like, he's just so good with kids. He's really honest. He's upfront. And anyway, so they did like the whole scoping up her nose, and thankfully everything's good. And he just said she'll most likely just grow out of it and not to be worried, but she has no good. They check the adenoids like you and like with Violet and stuff, and thankfully everything looks great. Good. So yeah, that was nice to at least hear that and get that all sorted. And then I threw my back out.
It's nice. It's nice to get appointments done and checked off out of the way, like just to have a lot less pending. Yeah, it is. Having the knowledge is actually quite nice. But I'm sorry you threw your back out. Doing push-ups with 3,000 naked ladies on your back.
I wish, man. Every time I throw my back out, it's something stupid. And this was even made even more stupid because it happened to be this week that I was going in for my RMT appointment, which I try to do every month if I can do it, because it does quite help my neck and my back. And I go once a month, and I was at the RMT place in the sauna for the 15 minutes before I go in for the RMT. And when I sat up from being seated in the sauna, I just tweaked the left side of my upper middle back, and it was brutal. Yesterday was awful, and getting pills is kind of hard right now. Like, there's a relatively large shortage of a lot of things right now, and that was one of them. So I have been just sucking down whatever I can find, because it's hard to stop. So I'm trying to work from my couch, because that's the most comfortable spot. Like, this spot here is good, except when it's actually out. Like, I can work from my office now and it doesn't mess me up anymore like it used to. The chair is a huge help, but when it's out, I'm hooped. I literally can't do anything. So, and then I beat God of War this week. That game, I think it's better. I think it's my favorite game of the year, even over Elden Ring.
Really?
The storyline was incredible. Like, just, it was so good. And the world was huge. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, it was literally one of my favorite games I think I've ever played. The storyline was so good.
That's really cool.
So,
That's one thing that is one of my criticisms to Dark Souls and Elden Ring games is you have no idea what the story is. You can
Sure.
catch some side stories. You might have some questions with the lore. And I do like how they present and do their
Me too.
storytelling,
Mhm.
but I don't like how little I know to the concept of even just the basic world, like
Right.
the Erd tree or the flame of humanity. Like even just the basic concept is like, why does this need to be translated for me? Like, this is my language.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like, it's just the concept I can't even get. So that is really cool when there's a game that you like just as much as Elden Ring, but you actually grasp the story and it's good storytelling. Some of my favorite stories are video game stories, absolute
Yeah.
favorite concepts and design. So that's cool.
And they,
Glad
I
you
mean,
liked
the
it.
thing is too, like with Elden Ring and Dark Souls games, for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you, I don't play them for the story. I like knowing what's happening, but it's just, they're just really great big games and boss fights, and it's a lot of fun. God of War would be nothing without its storyline. Like, it has to have that storyline, but it just was told so well, and there were so many. It was weird to play a game because I haven't played very many games in quite a long time, but to play a game where you were actually chuckling at things that were being said or things that happened, or you could actually feel like the emotional change that was happening in the game when things were, it was just very, very well done. One of my favorite games ever. And yeah, it was really, really good. Super, super well
Good.
done. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Remember
Good week.
Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah, amazing game.
Oh, and
Amazing.
one of my favorite stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Story was
like
good.
no dialogue, really, almost nothing except for the hints that you got. And then when your character go, Agno, trying to call the horse. But man, I remember crying in that game. And I mean, that's a PS2 game, right?
Was it PS2? Wow.
PS2, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it might have been one of the first PS2 games because they had Oni or Ori or, oh, shoot, what was the one? They had one game before that. Anyway, love Shadow of the Colossus. That would be like the only game if they made Shadow of the Colossus. I know they remade it, but they did like another
It's just a
version.
remaster, I think, right?
There used to be a Castlevania where they tried to do that, but it ended up being like two bosses that were Shadow of the Colossus. I remember they were trying to do that. Anyway.
Anyway, it was a good week.
Have you heard of the game Path of Exile?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit happened this week. A little bit.
Yeah, and thankfully not all of the things happened this week. We got Curses still coming out next week, so
look at GGG thinking
good.
about us podcast folk.
Thanks, guys.
Just spreading
Spread
out
it
the
out.
news. That's right. That's right. And early next week, Curses are showing up.
I'm
Probably
excited
the
for
day
that one.
after this episode. Yeah, me too. That was the second on our list. I still can't believe Arch Nemesis. Like I'm playing. I'll get into this, but I'm playing. Right now because I'm still theory crafting. That's my curse. I never actually take characters deep because I'm like, oh, what about this idea? Well, what about this idea? Well, what about this idea? So now I'm doing another. What about this idea? And I'm going through and I come across a stupid Arch Nemesis mod and I die to it and I'm like, you're not gonna last very long.
That's awesome.
So then I start thinking, I'm like, what if all these buffs that they're doing to the skills are going to make me hate it? Like, remember when we were really excited about Arch Nemesis, right? But then, of course, it wasn't implemented the way that, both the fans and the company were hoping. So it ended up being like my least favorite two leagues, even though that was a change we were really excited for. So now I'm really excited for this again. And I started thinking the other day, I'm like, what if, because they're buffing certain skills, because they're not coupled with many other skills anymore and other modifiers, what if they buff stuff like heralding minions? What if they make it do more damage? There's more spires.
Do you think they'll still have that? Do you think that will still be a thing?
I still really do hope that they get rid of some of those stupid modifiers because they still surprise you. Like I still want them to hopefully consider the surprise aspect of like, because, like a rare's modifiers just don't all of a sudden show up on your screen and you're aware that they're there. So there can be some modifiers that just smash you out of nowhere because you didn't even know that there was a rare within the vicinity of its reach, right? So anyway, but I was thinking to myself and laughing about that.
I'm just curious because do you remember what all the okay, so here's the thing with heralding minions.
There's a couple that are almost the same, but go ahead.
Well, it's just that if heralding minions was just the fact that it created those things, and maybe it's just I don't know how you keep heralding minions but still have it only be one modifier, because heralding minions also gave buffs. Like there was more to heralding minions. So I'm curious. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of curious how you how do you strip all of the other modifiers and then still have the little minions? But in the end,
you know what, Justin?
I don't actually care.
You scrap it, right?
Well, yeah, I would much rather them scrap some of them too. But at least, even if they buff some of the skills, at least you know it's now you actually will, well, hopefully to some degree, know what it did versus like, well, I don't know. Who knows what that was?
That's right.
So,
that's right. And get those striders out of Act 2 and 3.
Striders?
Those are strong, man. Yeah, those things that like the magic monsters with the strider, whether it's flame strider, cold strider, whatever.
Oh.
And it's like they have the huge trail of burning ground or whatever.
But now they should only have that, right?
Oh, still, it's so strong. It is so strong.
Well, don't run
Act
through
3, I'm like, trying to reset my zones. So anyway, this week there was another streamer interview, which I always enjoy reading. This one was DS Lily, and hopefully it's just how it came across, because I feel kind of bad for her, but she almost seemed kind of defeated, and I felt really bad. Like some of the answers were just the life of streaming, you know, like, well, I used to like playing video games, but now it's a job. So now whenever I play video games, I feel like I have to broadcast, or,
it's probably
you know,
common.
Any suggestions to people? Well, try and find something new, because there's thousands of people out there and your chances of being successful are pretty slim. Like I felt bad for her. I hope it's just how I read it, because it's really cool to be featured by GGG, and I hope that her numbers really increased from that. I've seen DS Lily a few times too online when you know, you see who's there and the suggested there. So her name comes up a lot, so I've clicked on her sometimes, and so hopefully the announcement did quite well for Thanksgiving sale. Normally we
did we say Happy Thanksgiving? Happy Thanksgiving, Americans. I don't think we said it last week, so here it is. Happy Thanksgiving.
No, we would have said it. Well, Bon Fête, Americanos.
Yep. I mean, it's really close to Christmas, so it's kind of weird, but you do you, Americans. You do
weirdos. Yeah, you should probably have it in October like us.
But you brought it. Hey. You brought us Black Friday, so
you did.
You know.
Hey, you know that steering wheel that I was waiting for?
Yeah.
It didn't go on sale.
No.
I could have had it like 6 weeks ago. This stupid steering wheel for Formula One to connect to my Xbox. It
never went on sale.
It didn't go on sale. It actually went up in price yesterday by $20.
Well, that's what Amazon does.
I've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
Friday.
They upped the price. It was like $158 and it went up to $178.
That's pretty typical for Black Friday.
But they still honored the old. They still honored the old price.
Really?
So I ended up buying it for one. Yeah. Maybe they felt bad because it was in my cart for about 2 months, hoping it would go from 158 to 155 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, anything. But anyway, give me that 1% off.
Yeah. But it's also a good time for all of you. Like we have a few December birthdays in our extended family. My son's birthday's in January, so it is a good time to kind of not just for Christmas, but pick up other stuff, because with American Thanksgiving so close to Christmas, and then Christmas itself with Boxing Day sales in Canada. I don't know what other people do for Boxing Day, but Boxing Day here is like the 26th is when stores traditionally would just like, okay, we got to get rid of all of our Christmas stuff so we could normally restock. Now restocking is a big issue ever since COVID started. Now everybody's empty. So Aaron and I, we have to stock up for even Violet's birthday in March, because stores are still quite empty from Christmas at that point. So anyhow, the GGG's having the MTX sale, but I thought it was kind of a cool theme. Only classic sales, only classic skins in MTX, which I thought was kind of neat. Yeah. And so obviously, Justin, guess what I bought every single time? A Weta, some more rain for my hideout, some falling leaves for my hideout.
Falling leaves, got to have those.
Yeah. And I've always wanted this, but I never got it. May as well have gotten it way back when, but I got the bleached skull, the head MTX. It's just a skull. Yeah, it's nice. No extra fancy stuff. It's just white, and I love it. So
I wish you could put hats on the skulls, because I have quite a few of the skulls, but then you can't put a hat on top.
Well, Justin, you're just a plethora of fantastic ideas that you never post to GGG.
This is just us talking.
So you know that's not going to happen.
Just us talking.
So yeah. So anyway, got some stuff on the sale, which was kind of fun. I almost never do that, so I decided to. You know what? Screw it. I'm getting that bleached skull.
I'm splurging.
And Weta and rain and leaves. I checked the dev manifesto section before we started here when I was making the notes. No, none of the balance manifestos are in the dev
right.
But you know what? All the other ones, you know what the Kalandra one says?
Oh God, here we go.
Balance manifesto for Lake of Kalandra. You know what the one below it says? Balance manifesto for whatever that post was. So
maybe they'll move it there after it's an announcement. Maybe when it's no longer an announcement, then it moves into the manifestos.
If have it in both.
Oh my gosh, then you got to read multiple spots for responses.
No, it's just one click. It says, "Hey, announcement. We did the dev manifesto for this. Click here.
Oh,
and
that's
then
awful.
It brings you to the same link.
So that's not thinking of the user.
If I have questions, I'm like, oh yeah, remember that dev manifesto when
it'll probably
go to the dev manifest. Shut your face.
It'll move there.
Delirium later. Everywhere began. I'm not playing it, but I hope everybody that is playing it is having a fantastic time and dying lots. People in our Discord are talking about having, 94% delirium areas. So good luck.
Can they go up by a percent? I thought they were by 5s. Wouldn't it be 95%? Oh, I don't think you can go with the 94.
Maybe it was a typo. I don't know. The 94, 95 is a lot. Okay.
It's a lot.
Just shut your face. Also, Balance Manifesto came out.
Mm-hmm.
The announcement. Balance Manifesto came out.
Yeah, that's where it should be. Makes sense because it was an announcement.
Manway in Discord, my apologies for always saying it incorrectly. Thank you for correcting me. They are not Eldritch modifiers like our buddy Eldritch. They're Eldritch altars.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eldritch.
Did you say Eldritch? I don't even think I ever noticed that.
Yeah. Eldritch and Chieftain are really good buds. They hang out all the time at the coffee shop.
Except that Chieftain's correct.
Oh, Chieftain. Oh, Chieftain. Oh, right. Okay.
Now you can't even say it
see
incorrectly.
My buddy Chieftain.
That sounds like one of those Key and Peele, the one where he can't say the name of the students.
Hey, Brown. Yeah. Yo, Jay Quellen.
Where Jay Quellen at?
I do watch that one every now and then.
I just saw it the other day. Just showed up on my, I don't even remember where, but I watched the whole thing again. It was so good.
So good. And then I forget the last guy's name, but the teacher says the last guy's name and the guy goes, present.
Oh.
Just the very last guy. Instead of saying present, he says it wrong. Present. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. That one's so good. So Eldritch thing, really cool. And now I've never been a big fan of the altars. You and I have always been opposite. I remember some of our fans were joking around with us a little bit after the fact, after we mentioned this, because you're a big fan. Your builds are always strong enough that you can really ignore all the negative consequences. And so it's just all about which positive effect do you want. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh no, I'm not playing with those negative consequences. I'm looking at the negative first and then nixing it. And you're only looking at the positives to nix it. And so this is quite interesting for me because it was never really a focus. I've always preferred, even though I like the boss fights that both Eldritch paths take you, I've always preferred the Maven pathway. And so I've just normally just stuck with it. Like I like having the bosses witnessed. I like them having a little bit more difficult. I don't like a lot of the Maven interactions in terms of like the stupid orbs and ground dots and stuff that she does. But for the most part, I prefer the encounters better than obviously prior to I preferred the Maven experience over the altar experience. And I find because I play so infrequently, if I spread out, if I did one of the left altars, then Maven, then one of the right altars, and then I keep switching it, I would never encounter anything because I just don't play that often. So it makes more sense for someone who plays as infrequently as me to just pick one of them that I like and go for it. So this was really interesting to read. And the thing that really interested me about this was what's going to happen to the core game with all of these altar changes. Like what's going to happen to the Atlas passive tree? They already talked about 2 different keystones, but what other changes are going to happen to the Atlas passive tree now that they've made this? Like, because there's some really, really cool stuff happening here. One of them that I like, and I hope this continues for a lot of the other things, but altar bots, they're now going to be on the map UI, which I thought was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That would impact you more than me.
Yeah, I think that effect is very cool. We've talked about this for a long time. Being able to visually see things is better. I think my concern is still exactly what it was with the existing altars, which is it's too much to read in a very short amount of time. None of this stuff is making that better. Unfortunately, it is still going to be a case of I've never liked this about a lot of things. It was the one thing that was it Ultimatum that I loved. I loved the pause function. Give me a moment to see what it is and then make a decision. I still think I'd like to see that, and even stuff like this. I know you can't really do it. I don't know how it works on a multiplayer level, but on a single player level,
Blight.
Right. It's so hard. Oh my God. Blight needs something in between waves or something because it's just awful. But this, you're getting so you click it once, which then pops up 2 options. And then you have you don't have time to check it. Like I did see in their fact, they were like, this is something people have mentioned. Currently our fix is just kill everything around the altar. Well, just the problem with killing everything around the altar is shit still comes in from the sides. You can't, without clearing a large area, you can't really do it. And then the problem too is the benefit comes from killing the monsters. Like the altars affect what happens when you kill the monsters. So I want to be able to click it as quick as I can to get the benefit and then move on.
Isn't it only the monsters that spawn from the altar?
Yeah, but if you move away, more can spawn. It's like if you've clicked any other altars, you can hit different areas where new monsters spawn up. So you could be potentially killing monsters that would have been affected by that altar. It's not just the monsters that spawn on this altar, because Eldritch monsters can spawn away from an altar, right? As you're running through, you hit that little weird stuff, and then all of a sudden monsters will pop up from it.
Okay, I understand.
So, I don't know what the solution is, but that is a really tough part. And for me, quite often, I am just reading to be actually fully honest, what ends up happening is if you kill the boss, and I know they're working on this too, what I used to do is kill the boss as quickly as I could, then hit the altars, because that's how you were getting the most bang for your buck from the altars. I still think that's going to be a thing, but they're trying to fix that a little bit. But there was a modifier that was this affects you, and there was a modifier that this affects the monsters, and I almost always just picked the one that said this affects the monsters. I wouldn't really read much else except this affects the monsters, because I didn't want ones that would affect me, like less cooldown per power charge or something. I'd always find there was always something in the this affects the player option that could quite often break my build, but there was very rarely something in the this affects the monsters side that would be, nothing was worse than just, this is a little bit harder. So I'm not sure how they fix that visual side of it, because I would love a pause function like Ultimate. It was Ultimatum, right, that had that?
Yeah. I mean, good job remembering the name again. That's the one we always forget. But at least they mentioned that, like, they've considered a lot of different options, including the ultimatum pause and a lot of things that they brought it up. That was in the FAQ. And they said currently, just with the state of, whether it's the state of the game or state of future plans, unfortunately, the current method is still the best method, in their opinion, for how to go about it. But at least they brought it up and said that, and listed some of the ideas they considered, hopefully considered strongly. I think one of the coolest changes to this is something that they said it's not actually related, but a little bit it is. Awakened gems can drop from witnessed maps.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Just like on the process to unlocking Maven. That's so fantastic for me. Like for a casual player,
had to fight Maven.
I've never had an awakened gem drop. Ever. Not for me personally. Like I've had them drop in co-op because we were doing one of your maps, or you can find them in trade or people give them to you, but I've never actually had earned my own. Yeah. And so this will be a lot of fun because it does give the opportunity. But here's the part. Am I reading this correctly? So here, not directly related to altars, but related to the choice of what type of influence you run in your maps, we are adding a chance for Maven witnessed map bosses to drop an awakened gem. Now, there's a comma there, so I'm going to keep going, but that is like just on the way to like a normal map being witnessed by Maven has a chance to drop an awakened gem, right? We're not talking just at her crucible when I'm fighting all the bosses at once. We're talking
just a Maven witness map boss.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not misreading it. Okay. So the witness map boss to drop an awakened gem, inclusive of the awakened gems that are typically exclusive to Maven. So even the Maven exclusive ones have a chance to drop. Like I am reading this correct, right? Like it sounds like all awakened gems can drop from a witnessed boss.
Maven boss. Mm-hmm.
So my assumption would be that, of course, that chance to get one of those previously exclusive gems would be a lot more rare or more slim of a chance to get than some of the other awakened ones. And you probably still have a greater chance to get it dropping from Maven herself.
Right. They did bring that up in the FAQ as well. Mm-hmm. So in the FAQ they said one of the questions was how common are awakened gems from the Maven, and their response was when you kill the Maven herself, the chance of getting an awakened gem is quite common. The drop chance from Maven Witness map bosses is a lot lower than this because these fights occur more often, which is totally true. The goal is that they're common enough that it feels worthwhile running Maven Witness maps, while not having awakened gems feel too common and significantly lowering their value, which is awesome. I really like that.
Yeah, that's such a fantastic change.
Especially because for me gives me this spot of actually debating, because you were saying that you tended to lean towards the Maven side, whereas I would move away from the Maven once I had done the first 10 boss fight, because I didn't want to continue doing the 10 boss fight. I felt I got more reward from doing one of the other Eldritch influences. So to be able to now go, well, there's actually kind of a decent benefit to doing, like, the chance of getting some of her awakened gems. That's, especially if you do a lot of maps, I think that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool. And because my time isn't going to increase because of these changes, you know what I mean? So I'm still going to be on that. Okay, I still have to pick one. I know there's huge benefits to go to either of the new paths that they have, the Eldritch bosses, but it's probably still going to be Maven for me because it's just boss. And I like that. And then it gives me the opportunity for more bosses and then the awake. So I love that, you know, from selfish perspective, I love that a player like me was considered with this. And I think that's really cool. And scarabs, two things with scarabs that just, yes. Rusted scarabs are now in the normal drop pool.
Amazing.
Now,
that's amazing.
I honestly didn't. I have always had enough scarabs, but I never paid attention to where I got them from. So I never realized they weren't part of the normal drop pool. I would just get it from whatever other content I was doing, but I never realized which content. Like, I didn't realize it wasn't from the core pool. I think I just accidentally said that 3 different times. But I also, and so I like that now. I think that's a lot more exciting. Hopefully I get lots more of them, because the fact that they have that upgrade feature now.
So nice.
Yeah, and even if you don't have the tab, they added the vendor recipe for it as well to upgrade it, which is really cool.
But if you have
the tab, now you can upgrade it. And so that's just like essences. And I think it was Shaq that pointed out what Ziz says the last time Shaq was on. Shaq was talking about essences, and he's like, don't upgrade your essences all the way, right? Like, do it to like the second last or the third last tier. Don't do it to the last one. It gives you a lot more opportunities to spam and still get decent rolls. And that was really smart. Maybe the rusted scarabs, maybe this would be the same thing, because there's 4 levels of scarabs, right? Yeah, there's 4 levels of scarabs. So maybe that'll be something to consider too. I think oils need that next. The upgrade function for oils in the tab. As far as I can tell, you can't upgrade oils in the tab.
Yep. Click the upgrade button and it will 3 to 1. The next one, you just keep clicking it.
I swear I've looked at that since you've said that, and I haven't seen it. I think you're mixing it up.
I guarantee you that's how I do it all the time. You just click the actual oil. Once you click the upgrade button, you actually click the oil itself, and that's what upgrades it to the tier above it. Promise. It's there.
I'll look at it again. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And then just in the FAQ, they did mention that Heist and Expedition, which are, I guess, other places where you would get a lot of Eldritch thingies, they're not even going to be touched despite these changes, which I guess would excite a lot of altar people. Was there anything that stood out to you? There's a few more things, but I've been talking straight, so you go.
I'm to be honest, no. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a fun change. I'm not totally sold on the ability to stop people from rushing the boss. I do like a couple things. One, I like that they've stopped, and I know some people won't like it, but I like that they've stopped allowing you to spec into the Atlas tree on both sides and gain the benefit of both sides in a single map, because that's what you did. You would take both the big nodes, because that would affect your altars. You could choose to have just one influence on the map, but you were still gaining the benefit of how altars were affected, whether you went to the right or the left side on the Atlas passive. I do like that they're stopping that, because it frees you up a little bit for the Atlas passive tree, because if you were a strong build, you could really, really, really soup up Eldritch altars. So I'm fine with them taking that away, because it affects such a small percentage of the player base that was able to do that. The ability to stop people from boss rushing, I'm not sure that this is enough to do it, because the problem was when you went through a map and you'd get the Eldritch Altar would pop up. Your options for the boss tend the reason it's not even like that the options were bad, you know, like, oh, the boss will drop additional currency or the boss will drop extra div cards or extra maps or whatever. The problem was there's one boss, and the alternative is to choose something that affects all of the Eldritch minions or enemies, which is huge across the whole map. So the problem, I'm not sure how you make the boss option strong enough to make it worth picking, because I would love for them to find a way to get rid of it, because what it meant to me is I would have to play a map like I did Dunes a ton, because Dunes you could just run right along the edge, get straight to the boss, kill the boss. There's a couple other maps that are like that, but you could kill the boss. Mesa was the same. Get straight to the boss, kill the boss.
I love that map.
Yep. This way of playing it you'd hate, but you would go straight to the boss, kill the boss, because then when I hit the altars, there's no boss options anymore. Now it's only minion based options because the boss is dead. That's just the way that the game works.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Right. So you would kill the boss quickly. That way you would never have to worry about getting a boss option in the altars. And I'm just curious, how much can they buff, or how can they make it feel like there's still a value to clear the map like normal, choosing the altars you want, but feel like if you choose the boss option, it's going to be rewarding enough to do that. I'm not sure. And without seeing them, I don't think it's fair I've seen a lot of people that are judging it already, which I don't think is fair because we haven't seen what those modifiers will be. But I just feel like when you're adding a modifier for a single entity in an entire map of thousands of mobs, that benefit has to be pretty strong for me to feel like it's worthwhile taking and then clearing the map like normal and then killing the boss. And yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they decide to do that, because if the modifier for the boss is not good enough in the rewards, you're still going to have people rushing the map boss, which again, I actually don't know that that's a bad thing. That's how if a person chooses to play that personally, that's not the end of the world. I think what they're trying to do is limit the feeling of needing to do that, or there being such a big benefit to doing it. I don't think a boss dropping 3 Val Orbs, you know, is going to be sufficient unless, and this is why I say it's not fair to judge it yet, if you did a full map clear and chose all of the boss modifiers. First off, that boss is going to become a nightmare to fight, but maybe the drops are valuable enough. Maybe they are. I'm not sure. It's just really hard to balance out. How do you make one entity, its value equal to hundreds of entities that could be affected by choosing the other options? So,
but how do you make that boss? How do you make it so that you're not an idiot for not going on that Eldritch path as well? Because it still needs to be relatively fair, and maybe that's why they have the awakened gems coming from the Maven pathway of bosses, because that Maven path still needs to be just as tempting from a boss reward system as the other. You know what you could also do? Maybe, I mean, if GGG can't find a balance that they're happy with in terms of this boss rushing, and I agree with you, sometimes it's just the personality quirk. Go for it, min-max it. Some people, I'm going to hug the right no matter what my perks are. I'm picking perks that are going to, when I'm hugging the map, hugging the right wall of the map, those are the perks I want, the ones that benefit that kind of play style. But maybe there's just get rid of boss perks.
Yeah, I don't really know why they don't just offer all 3. Why not just give them, instead of, I mean, it would be a nightmare to read 3. I can't even imagine an altar pops up with 3. 2's already bad enough. But why limit it? Why not just because there's 3 that will have the potential to drop on every altar. It's just that only 2 will show. And if the boss is killed, the boss will not show. So that's the way it works. I don't know that it's so bad if you just offered all 3.
Oh, that's an interesting way to do it too. I didn't know that's how it worked.
But I don't know how that would not be fun to read. It would be even harder to try and figure out. But you would stop the need for people. I mean, the problem is you wouldn't stop people rushing the boss. But what you would, well, no, you would, because then I wouldn't feel like I had to kill the boss first. I could just kill the boss when I wanted and still choose the options in the altar that I wanted, because I don't actually care about the boss options. By making it limited to the 2 options while having a chance for the boss to show up in those 2 options while it's still alive. I mean, you could also just say, oh, people would rage, though you couldn't do this now that it was the other way, but you could say like, well, the boss options can still show even after the boss is dead. I'm not saying they should,
No.
but I'm just saying you could, and that would eliminate the need of people feeling like they had to rush the boss.
If you did all three, it wouldn't matter when the boss thing disappears.
That's right.
And watch, GG's listening to this and they're like, crap. Well, I thought of that. I don't know, who knows what the consequences to that are, but I like that because then that would provide people, no matter their quirk or their preference for playing, you do what you want. If you want to do the boss rush thing, okay, fine. Like, it doesn't change your reward.
It wouldn't change it at all if you had all three options. Because it would still be
available the way that it was already there anyway. And so then it would even open up people's preferred maps to not be boss rush specific too,
I felt forced when I did that, which again, you are 100% right, is a personal quirk. It's a feeling of min-maxing, and you know you can maximize the amount of drops when you did a boss rushing way of dealing with the Eldritch Altars. But I was extremely limited. I was doing Mesa or Dunes. I can't even think of too many others. And to the point where even in some cases where I was super juicy maps, risking, like in Mesa, trying to get to the boss first, it wasn't super enjoyable. But again, that was my choice. I chose to play that way. I definitely did not have to, but to be able to get two modifiers that could potentially be mob related and not boss related was worthwhile to kill the boss first. So I don't know what their solution is to it. It'll be interesting to see. But I am excited. I said this last week. I don't care what change they make. I'm always excited to try it out. It makes the game fresh and new, and that's fun for me. So I am very much looking forward to it.
Word.
I think they said they're increasing the altars, but decreasing the spawns too, which that could be really cool too. I mean, if you think about having even more options to affect them while having less enemies to kill, I think that's cool.
Yeah, especially because those pros and cons stack.
Yep.
Right. So now you're going to have more to consider. It is more to read, but hopefully it does end up being more impactful with the enemies. Part of that, because they are kind of doing all that increasing, is those monsters aren't going to be dropping stacks of things anymore. If I read that correctly. Right, it's just
I don't really understand that one, and I'm not sure I like it. I don't.
I mean, they
anytime they say the words, it drops individual. I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah,
what is going on here? That should never come out of your mouth. We've had this conversation.
Well, I can't tell you how much basic currency I have that in the later maps, it has to be like a high stack of something to
even you're walking right past it. Yep.
Right. Well, it doesn't show
in my
filter. Oh, Justin, I was playing with filters this week. But another thing that we haven't talked about yet, it's not like it needs some, but I think it's really neat, is the altars don't offer boring crap anymore. So there's no more like augments, transmutes, whetstones, armor scraps. I like that. And they even decided to no longer offer stuff like gems, unique items, maps, or influenced items. So now it's like a much more specific thing. But another thing and then what else? To go coincide with that, when they drop stuff like currency or scarabs or div cards, now it's very specific to what it is. So the example they gave was, now this is going to drop val orbs as opposed to just currency.
Oh, it tells you specifically. Yeah. I like that they did that with even like the div cards too, where it will be like and div scarabs. Cards for currency or div cards for uniques or whatever. I like that.
Imagine if for currency it actually said exalted orbs. We'll drop 3 exalted orbs. Okay. Get like obliterated right away because of the mod that's attached with it. But I think that'd be awesome. So anyway, I thought that was neat. Even though I don't play the altars, when I was reading that, I'm like, oh, cool. I really hope that's that successful. And so that kind of applies to so many different other things. Like if you're identifying a strong box or something, I think that'd be awesome. So anyway, it was really neat. It wasn't my most excited manifesto that I was looking forward to before it was released. But I was surprised how much of it would actually impact my normal gameplay, even though I'm not an Eldritch player.
Can I go back to something that you just said? Because I just read the actual line, and now I feel like I'm even more confused. It's talking about the whole like basic currency, and now how you have offer choices for specific currency. And like they said, the example, instead of basic drops 3 currency, you'll now see things like map boss drops 3 val orbs. But the line after that is the currency rewards from influenced minions no longer drop in stacks larger than 1. Are they actually saying that any currency that drops will only drop as a single currency?
From mapping that's specific to Eldritch, yes. That's what it sounds like to me. Why does currency drop in stacks of 1 now? This change only applies to rewards from influence monsters. After rewards, altar rewards that say things like map boss drops 3 Valorbs will still drops in a stack requiring 1 click for pickup. One of the goals of the altar changes from the outset was to retain the feel of altars such as that the gameplay feels similar. Oh, sorry. Wow. Okay. One of the goals of the altar changes from the outset was to retain the feel of altars such that the gameplay feels familiar, as we're generally happy with how that feels to play. Part of retaining this means that we want to keep the frequency of encountering Eldritch altars relatively common. If we want to give you altars relatively often, it means we're giving out rewards relatively often, so one of the ways of balancing this is to make the stack sizes of those rewards lower. Most currency rewards from influence monsters already drop in stacks of 1, but there are a few outliers, mostly the map currency rewards. The outliers are generally the only thing that is changing here in terms of stack size. So it's one of those things that it seems like it sounds worse in our head, even though like we all want things to stack. We still want, if there's like 50 scrolls of wisdom on the screen, we want it to be sucked into 1 no matter where it fell on the screen. But it does sound like, despite the fact that that's not what we're looking for, this is just cleaning up some of the extra stuff that we didn't already know existed. Like we didn't know that most of that stuff was already dropping in singles. So
I think
I know you do. I know.
Stupid. It is so stupid. You should never, ever, ever be looking towards making a person click more. I just think that's absolutely ludicrous. Although I still don't understand why we can't have a D3 style pick up 1 scroll and all of the ones that are within a range of you get sucked in. I don't think you should ever be aiming towards, maybe it's because they feel like there's more stuff on the ground then and it looks like you're getting more out of it. But any day I would rather click on a stack of 3 alchemies than 3 individual alchemies. I don't feel like I've achieved more by clicking on 3 individual alchemies. In fact, I actually feel better about seeing a stack of 3 because that seems exciting because the number is bigger.
Right. Then remember what they were doing before with just the core gameplay. They made this change quite a few leagues ago now, if my memory serves me correctly. You're going to see alks less often, but you're going to see them in stacks. And it's going to end up being the same ratio. It's just less clicking.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. It just the way that they say it and the way that it shows to me seems like nonsense and doesn't make sense, and I don't like it. And then when I read that fact that you just read right now, it seemed like a political response. Like when you ask a question that says like, hey, what's A plus B? They're like, well, actually, if you add S and R, that's kind of what you should like. It kind of seemed like very deflective, not actually referencing what you're asking and more just pointing you in a different direction because you're stupid and you won't know that they did it.
So we'll see how it plays. We'll see how it plays. I assume you didn't touch PoE this week?
No, I didn't. Did you?
Yeah, I did. Lots.
Nice. How's it going? What you doing?
Well, for some reason, and I don't know why it didn't before, but how the continue function or command works in filters just clicked for me this week. I'm like, how? It's so simple. Why doesn't that makes perfect sense?
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
In Filterland, prior to this continue function being introduced, which was quite a while ago now, you basically had to tell your filter what is shown and what is hidden, right? You just had to, it said show, it said hide. And for everything specifically, unless you were grouping it all together, it had to be individual and spread out. This is how I want it to look, and this is what I want. Now what you can do, I mean, this has been like this for a long time, but the continue function allows you to be like, okay, I want all corrupted items to have a red border. So you can just set that right up. And then you do the command, you do the block, and then underneath, instead of continuing to the next block, you write continue. And then now the filter knows that it's going to be every single corrupted item is going to have a red border, except for items that correlate to it underneath. So it allows, basically, it's like, it's going to have a red border unless one of the blocks underneath says otherwise. So for some reason, it only clicked this week. So now in my head, I've been like, half of my theory crafting time has just naturally been like, but filters. Do I like my themes? How can I change this? What am I going to do? Like, how much space could I save? Do I want to change all my color themes? and my size themes and my beam themes and my sound themes? Or do I just want to add it to the current filter? Anyway, it's been a wonderfully stressful time trying to figure out filter stuff. I have a tiny bit of time before the league starts if I am going to apply it. What else?
Cool.
I made a feedback suggestion.
Of course you did.
Well, it was just, so I play on PC and console, and there's an armory extension on Twitch. I don't know if you've ever used it, but when people are playing Path of Exile and they have the extension activated, you can click on that extension and it shows you their gear and their gems, which I absolutely love. I do that with all, like, every time I click on Mathol or Ziz, for example, I'll check out what they're doing and I'm like, man, why is it every time I have those gems I suck? But you know what I mean? Like, it's good and it's edifying, and I think it's a really cool feature to have. But because I play on, and apparently it works on console too, which I didn't know prior to this post, because every time I've used it on console, it only shows my PC stuff. But I think there's an issue with the extension because when I play on both PC and console, it only shows my PC character. So I'll be playing on console. My PC is completely off. I haven't touched my PC in, let's say, a week or whatever. And I'm playing on console. It'll show my PC character. And so there's something to do with the extension that when you play on both, it doesn't like it. So I had a post about that. Riot Blob on Discord was saying that they had a really good suggestion, and but they weren't going to post it online. So I posted it in GGG's suggestion box for them. But Riot Blob said was curious if stack sizes, in general, like they was talking specifically about certain stack sizes, maybe going from 10 to 20, maybe Chaos Orbs, I think it was. But anyway, I just asked GGG if stack sizes were going to be reviewed before PoE 2. That got a lot of very humorous replies, that's for sure. People are like, PoE 2? That's never coming. It's just like people just got completely distracted by a whole bunch of different stuff. And then people started complaining about, because now stack sizes are only dropping by one, that all drops are completely nerfed. So who needs to care about stack sizes? Because you're never going to see 10 chaos again.
Is this on Reddit? This had to have been Reddit.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah. And so I typically tend to post on both. I don't know what happened in the last little bit, but I now enjoy reading the comments on Reddit, no matter what spectrum the individual is from. So I do find it more entertaining now than I find like, oh my goodness, I don't want to deal with this. So anyway, I posted for Riot Blob the currency stack thing, which was fun. 2 moons on Patreon. Remember, so okay, last week, week before, probably last week, because we were talking about stuff and things. I was trying to find out, there was a post somewhere about how rarity also impacted quantity. And I'm like, I thought it happened last year, but apparently everyone, and there was a whole bunch of very kind people that were helping me out on Discord and other media platforms, saying like, no, that change was this league, and it was all just about, the item. It was all about item conversion, right? With the new Arch Nemesis mods, and so your rarity that would actually impact, your items and increase that chance. But then if those, unique items or whatever were going to get swapped to currency because of whatever mod, of course.
Modifier.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that part, I guess, didn't compute to me when it was being described, when it was originally announced. For some reason, that to me, that felt like a year ago. But that is what I was talking about, that rarity can stack with quantity for this. And so anyway, but I was still trying to find the post. I was still trying to find it, and 2 moons found it for me. It was the YouTube interview with Ziggy. At just this past league. Yeah. And so they time stamped it for me, and I got to check, and that was it. I got now that little click in the back of my head where it's like, okay, I know what you guys are talking about. I know you're right, but where's the post? 2 moons checked that off in the back of my head. So now I don't have that little bug eating at my brain anymore. So thank you everyone for helping me figure that out and finally find that. And let's see. That's the wrong copy and paste. That's for something completely different. So I hope I'm not missing anything out. But yeah, this week I started. So remember last week, or I guess for the last few weeks, I was thinking of the idea of doing an exploding zombies character. I thought it'd be fun to actually try minion instability, especially because the zombies base life is so high. I think it's secondary. I think it's still second place to the default life of golems, but you can get so many more of zombies. But I didn't like the cooldown, the 4-second cooldown, I think it is, of golems. So if you're trying to spam explosion damage, it doesn't really work that well with the golems, if you're trying to do quite a lot frequently. So I was playing around with it, and I was enjoying the idea, and the damage was really good, the survivability was really good, but I was getting kind of bored of the playstyle. Maybe I'll go back to it later, but I kind of was I don't know. I guess it is kind of a tell of a build. If you are thinking about another build, maybe you shouldn't be with your first build, you know? Maybe that applies to dating too, right? Thinking about someone else while you're with someone else. But anyway, so I started doing, and I am quite excited about this. So I hope that it progresses well. I'm trying to not be distracted by damage numbers. Right? I'm trying to keep the hardcore mentality when theory crafting and not get distracted by damage nodes that I'm missing out for minions. But I'm trying to do an elementalist with the Reaper. And the reason I'm doing the elementalist is just the free golem spawning that it has. But also it has a lot of nice defense, right? So you obviously get the defensive perks from the really invested golems, right? So that's a lot of free physical damage mitigation for sure if you're just doing the chaos golem. And then also there's that one Aegis skill where you get a certain amount of flat elemental mitigation based on how many notables you have. And then there's the nice perk of either doing chilled or shock on hit. I have to do it, not my minions, but I still like that quite a lot. So I'm playing around with the idea of doing the Reaper with the Elementalist, and I'm doing my best to be as defensive as possible, you know, on the tree, having 79% maximum resists or 80, and having over 200% armor and that kind of stuff. And I'm playing with it. But the thing that I'm really enjoying about it is I do have the tree figured out for the most part. Still humming and hawing on a couple extra nodes versus mastery selections. But the thing that I'm really enjoying is I didn't do any gems. I want to just see what it feels like. I want to do, and right now I'm playing with Impale support, which I really like. For some reason, it drives me nuts that bleed is on the Reaper. It makes no sense to me because bleed isn't a stackable ailment that you can do for minions without. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two uniques out there, but just naturally playing with it, if you have a minion or just you and you're doing a lot of attacks at once, well, bleed is based on one hit's damage. There's no point to having fast attack speed with bleed because it's just going to keep replacing itself. It doesn't stack like poison or another ailment would. Bleed is like the physical version of burn. You just can't do it with the exception of a very specific item. So it's weird to me that a very fast attacking minion like the Reaper, a lot of the skills are, it's like 6 hits in a split second, it seems like. So even though it is kind of foolish, and I see everyone in hardcore solo self-found that's doing the Reaper, they're all focusing on the bleed aspect of it. But I kind of want to see what it would be like if I did something like Impale. Impale would benefit from high physical damage if possible, but also frequent attacks, right? The more often Impale goes off, you do some nice bonus damage there as well, because Impale does have a duration. It's not an infinite stack duration. The stack of Impale still has a duration. It just doesn't stay there forever, right? And so another idea I was playing with a long time ago is adding poison to it, but I really don't want to go the dex route. I'm not going to have a lot of dex on the tree, and I hate it when I need over 100 dex, on gear just to make some stuff work. So seeing if Impale works, but the fun thing is I don't even know which auras I'm going to use, right? It's just fun to not know which gems you're going to use and go through and play with it. So I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. But I mean, I just got the Reaper, right? I'm in Act 3. I don't think I'm in Act 4 now. So anyway, I'm hoping that it works out really well. But I've been doing that while humming and hawing about this continue function that for some reason took 3 years to compute properly in my head.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been fun. It was fun to go through the Eldritch stuff. I'm excited to do Maven nonstop next league. Sorry, I said
and
Eldritch again.
Next
Eldritch.
Week.
It is. If Bex's timeline is accurate from what she posted, she said probably early next week.
So potentially before our episode comes out.
Hope no.
Because they're a day ahead.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I guess our Sunday is their Monday. Well, that'll be next week anyway. It'll be good stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to wrap up. I was thinking about this week and wanted to just send a big thank you to everybody on our Discord. I have had a ton of fun reading it. I think it's super awesome to see such a large community of people who are positive. I've really, really enjoyed it. So I might not respond. I definitely don't respond like Tyler. Tyler, thankfully, is there, which I love. But yeah, it's just been super nice to read it and see people's comments. And it's just not a toxic place. And I really appreciate that. So thanks, everybody.
Agreed. Yes. Thank you.
A safe space. It's a safe space. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Episode 164, Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, a.k.a. Tags.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
patrons, we'll catch you in After Dark. Everybody else, we'll see you next week in 165. If you're looking for more information, you can find it down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. Again, we have a very great Discord, so hopefully you're a part of it. And if not, you should pop on in there. And Patreon, another way to support the podcast. You can find that down below. Don't forget to hit the 5-star on Spotify or Apple Podcasts because we love your faces for it. Bye-bye.
Bye. I gotta go see how my wife is doing. Apparently, the last time when I just finished up painting, I didn't clean it properly, and there wasn't plastic underneath the mat. I thought there was, and so a whole bunch of the paint like dried onto our brand new floor that we just got, and it can come off. But in the moment you realize maybe it can't come off, and it was me that did it, but I was out taking the kids to school, and she took the day off work to, personal day, a well-needed day of rest, but she's using this day of rest to paint. And then she saw it, and so probably had some choice words for me. She's cleaning up my mess while I'm doing this recording. We have lots of painting to do, but I'm still doing this recording. So I'm gonna go apply some band-aids.